Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Spilling the Spirituality with Rev Rob and Hilary. How's it going,
Morning.
Rob?
Good, good, good. This is my little mug for my with my tea this morning. It
Oh,
says, "Never drive faster than your guardian angel can fly," which, if you ask my husband, he'll tell you I never drive faster than anybody can fly or drive. So apparently I drive
very cool, very cool.
much
Today, I am not drinking tea. You can't even see my water bottle because it's white. I guess it just doesn't
days in. That's a
fit
big
in.
ass water bottle too.
Yeah. Oh, well. The point is, keep yourself hydrated, however you do it. Today we have a really interesting topic. Today is all about how authentic are you and authenticity in general. And this topic came up because my pal Rob over here was telling me a really great story where he was faced with that. So, what's the story, Rob?
So I'm in therapy for like the millionth time in my life, and I've had several different therapists, and I was reaching this point where um, I was beginning to question my authenticity even in my therapy sessions. I have this tendency of um, kind of mapping out what I'm going to talk about, or kind of creating this narrative before I would get into a session. Now, this last time that I started going, I promised myself I was going to really work hard at not to do this, to be spontaneous, to really share how I feel. But, the fact is, every week comes along, and every week I find myself on the day of my appointment feeling like I don't feel as bad as I did like yesterday, or I'm not spiraling about the thing that I did yesterday. So, what do I talk about? So, it brought up this big issue of getting into this space where I feel like I am not really sharing all of me in a therapy session, which is, of course, what's the point if
Right.
you aren't, right? So, and I'm just trying to be aware of how I'm, using my resources. Am I getting, the most out of this? And am is it bringing me to a place in myself that I feel is a change or an accomplishment or a success? And can I do that if I am somehow uh, not being totally honest during a therapy session? And I should say, I'm not talking about lying. I'm talking about the fact that I kind of identify issues that are real for me, but not the deeper versions of those issues. So, they're issues that I have. They're issues that I can be honest about, but don't necessarily reflect exactly what I'm going through or what I'm feeling, or any of the deep truths. And so I decided to bring this up to my therapist, and I say, I'm expressing this concern, and I'm not sure how authentic I feel like I'm being in a session. And he kind of takes it all in, and he is not, I'm thinking that he's gonna, I don't know, uh tell me about how what a waste of time it is to not be honest, and that's what he's here for, and why wouldn't I be able to open up and let go. And he basically said, well, actually, I would have no idea whether anything that you tell me is actually real or not. I don't know if the job that you say you have is your job, or the husband that you say you have is your husband. I don't know any of this. So all I can do is operate with the you that you are presenting in a session. And that you, regardless of the mask or the veneer or the semi or half truths, is still you. And my head like was about to explode, because I, in all of this kind of pondering whether I'm being authentic or not, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I wonder if he can tell that I'm, you know it's kind of like that imposter syndrome that we have at a job or at a place. It's like,
Yeah.
are, are they going to discover the truth? And of course he's a therapist, and so why isn't he just realizing that I'm lying? And basically he's telling me, I don't really care if you are or not. That is not my job to figure that out. That's your job to come to this with whatever you're going to come to. So for me, there's no way that you're not being authentic. You are being the you that is putting on the mask that you're putting on, and you must need that mask in this session. So I'm gonna I'll allow it, or I'm gonna go with it. Which, because I have said so many times to other people in uh, counseling situations, look, don't get wrapped up in the kind of common idea that we're having, or in the buzzword of this authenticity of being the real you, because you're always the real you. You can't not be the real you. You is you, period. We can put on masks, we can put on costumes, we can put on survival gear, but it's all still who we are. So, kind of being able to say this to someone and understand it, but then to feel it reflected back on me felt like a huge understanding of the way that not just I operate, but the way that probably most of us do. And, as someone who likes to be in front of people, even now, there is a performative aspect to that process that is not inauthentic. It's actually probably the most authentic that I am. But it was just very reassuring to know that I can't come to a session and fake it, because every part of me that he is seeing is a part of me. And it kind of gave me a lot of ease, because I didn't have to worry. And it actually made me feel like there was nowhere I could run. I felt kind of exposed, like, oh, wow. Here I'm thinking this grand thought of being some sort of trickster in a session, and obstructing the view and denying to myself. And he's just saying, I don't really care. So, you're never not authentic to me. Whether you think you are or not is one thing. And I felt exposed, but also really enjoyed that kind of being exposed, because for a while I've been thinking, well, I want to be seen in a way. And he literally did in that moment. Like, I'm saying it, and he's saying, well, sorry, but you're still you, which I just thought was really freeing. So I was both exhilarated and felt very exposed, but in the end, really brought me to a closer idea of what authenticity has come to mean to me from the worldview of being the real you, or being the authentic you. I can't not be the real me. So my work now is to just make it feel aligned, to have that feeling that I'm choosing to align those parts of me that I most want to be. So if I've faked anything, then what I want to do is not feel like I'm faking it. Not that's how I'll bring myself closer
Yeah.
to
I
that.
wanted to ask you, so after you got this information, after he said that, did it make you though want to expose a little more, want to be more really why you're there? Or did you just were like, okay, now I don't have to worry about it because it's
Oh
all
my God. So yes. So I have to say it was the latter in those moments. Yes, it was. It was like, phew, all right, I'll go as deep as I want to go, and
uh,
whether we deal with it or not. Um but it also made me want to think about, you know, for me, not for what he's going to think, but really think for
right,
myself.
right, because
Whether I'm talking about what I really want to talk about. So in
right.
a sense, it gave that power back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I really like what Rob just said. Rob and I are two very different people where we are in line with almost everything, but he's a little more esoteric than me. And so that's a really interesting interpretation of being authentic. And then I'm going to present kind of the other side of that, the more like basic side of being authentic, because while I agree with what you're saying, Rob, what you're saying is you're basically always being authentic no matter what you're showing the world, what you're choosing to show the world. But that could also give you a pass to not be truly who you are. And so before we go further, what I think would be really interesting is I know today I am not wearing pretty much any makeup. And we always, use these filters inside of Zoom to sort of make ourselves look a little bit more inviting.
Girl,
So
you're keeping it real. This is not therapy. Like, oh, what kind of mask am I putting on? This is literally what
yeah, and
filter.
this happens a lot on social media, a lot on people editing their pictures. They're changing it so it looks better. So when I count to three, let's take off our video filters and show everybody who we are without our filters. Okay?
All
Okay.
right.
One, a two. I'm counting a long time because it takes me longer. Okay, three. Okay, here's all my age spots.
Shine, there's the laugh lines.
Right. So this is really who we are, guys. And we're also sitting in a fake background, by the way, which I'm sure you know, but if I took that off, that just it doesn't really matter. But the point is, when if all of us could show ourselves without these filters, it would be an invitation to everyone else to show themselves, right? Even makeup in general is about hiding flaws, so it's kind of an interesting discussion when
So
we
before we move on, I'm curious. So how are you feeling right now with the filters off? Like, what are you thinking right now?
I just keep thinking about all my sunspots and how I wish I had put on makeup today because I don't have any.
Fair enough. So, right now, how anxious are you to click that check back on? Now, even though whoever's watching this has now seen the
Yeah.
real us,
No,
I'm
I'm good. I'm good. I'm staying like this.
feeling
At least
okay.
today. Or what about you?
Every opportunity to be inauthentic, authentic. I'll leave mine off if you leave yours off.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're not young. I mean, I'll just speak for me. I'm 54 and like this is what 54 looks like. And quite frankly, I still look pretty good.
And yes, of course you do. Yes.
So anyway, so let's talk about authenticity, and you can keep, bringing it back to the way that you were talking about it, and then I'll kind of bring it in a more grounded way. Is first of all, it's very interesting when you're out in the world and somebody says to you, "Hey, how are you?" And the first thing we always say is, "I'm fine, good." Oh, it's so annoying to me when that happens because that's not really authentic. And then you don't even know if the person really wants to hear the real answer or what. It's for me, I try very hard to be authentic. So if somebody says, "Hey, how are you?" and I'm not doing well, I might say, "I'm actually not that great right now." And then that person has to sit there like, "Oh shit, I didn't expect that answer." Now, if they're my friend, hopefully they ask what's going on. But do you talk like that in front of the grocery checker who asks how you are? Or do you just say, "Oh, I'm fine," to keep it going? Like, what do you do when somebody says, "How are you?"
Well, I will answer I'm fine because usually when someone asks me that question, it is this huge wake up call. So even if I'm feeling gnarly in the moment that somebody else asks, now if I ask myself that, I'll still be spiraling or being negative. But if somebody else asks the question, it always forces me to in a split second go, oh, I'm good. I'm good. Like for the purposes of this discussion,
Yeah.
I'm good. There may be a lot going on, but I feel like I'm not, for all this talk that I've just done, I feel like that's a moment that I'm actually not faking it because in that moment, I have realized that life is good. Like I realized that everything is fine. And if somebody else asks me, I sure as heck don't want my first thought to be, oh, something crappy's going on. Now, I mean, when, if something like big was going
Right.
on, like, a death in the family or, job loss, yeah, I mean, even if I have been in a bad mood, but it's mostly because the situation has put me there. So I might be angry when I get to the checkout person because somebody else in front of me has been annoying. So by the time I get to the checkout person, now they're asking me how I am, and I'm just pissed because whatever, there's been something annoying happening before I got there. But yeah, but I mean, it is something we're trained to do. Like, don't share how you. But I also don't like when someone kind of unloads on me either. If I do ask that question, so maybe I'm gauging who I'm responding.
Yeah, maybe. But going back to the checkout person at the grocery store, this just happened to me when I was getting groceries. And I feel like it's really important for every human being to feel seen and to feel heard. And I was waiting in the checkout line, and I'm sure lots of people can relate to this now. There's hardly any employees working anymore. So there's like one lady checking out everybody. The line is really long, and people are starting to get impatient. So when I get to her, I say to her, "How are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm not well." And I was like, I'm looking at this line, I can imagine. And then it was an invitation to her, and she started complaining to me. And yeah, like while we don't want to hear complaints, I listened, and then I said to her, I feel for you. This is really difficult. And when are you getting off? And then she told me, and I was like, okay, so you only have 1 more hour left. Hopefully you can get through it. But when I felt like something changed in her, when I acknowledged her, and she was kinder to me. So while I understand that we have this sort of like laziness of like, "Ugh, I really don't want to hear how this person is," we are all connected and we are all one, and it is important to hear each other. So for me, even though people were probably cursing me out because maybe she went slower checking me out because she was talking, it felt authentic, and it felt like it was a connection.
And how many people do you think either asked her that question in the day, or was she comfortable enough answering truthfully? Because it probably didn't take much after that, after you acknowledged her, to make her day, to transform the day. So I mean, just being able to answer that question like, wow, this is crazy, and then you're able to see it and say, oh, I can see that all of a sudden everything's turned around, like her, her outlook and change,
Right.
not because she was complaining, but because she felt seen and was honest in that moment.
Yes. That's definitely what I think. And so we talk about like how authentic are we in a given day? Like how, you know, a question to ask is, what do you say when someone says, "How are you?" We just talked about the Zoom filters and filters on, and all these kids now who set up their selfies and take 5,000 pictures to get one picture. I mean, that's not really capturing the moment. And then I was thinking about medical forms. When we fill out our medical forms, where you have to put down your weight and how often do you drink and how often do you smoke and all of those things. Like, are we honest? Because the reality is no one's going to judge us. It's really about just your physical health and them gauging what your physical health is. Are you honest on your medical forms?
So on my medical forms, probably not totally honest, but actually, you made me think of a situation that I do have a story about, and it was a form, and it was participating in a workshop. But I want to know from you: are you honest with your medical forms? And then I'll share this little story too.
I am not fully honest on my medical forms. I am probably 98% honest. I'm not going to say in which way I am not honest. Uh, but but yes, and I when I get to certain questions, I think in that moment, should I just tell the truth, or but I don't want to be judged, and I feel like whatever. I don't have addiction issues or anything like that, but I just don't want to disclose those things. And yeah, so 98% honest.
So I mean, and I'm just curious. So regardless of why why do you feel like you can't be that 2% honest? Like where's the judgment going to come from? Um, especially in a medical form where how we answer could affect the kind of care or treatment that we would get for something that was wrong. And I,
Right.
I know I've taken, I'm going to say the same thing, right around 98, 96% honest, and that other 2%, 4%.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I always feel like, fortunately, I've been mostly to the doctor for very basic things. And I know I'm not having any issues regarding some of those questions. So I guess, but if the real answer is, I don't want to be judged. And I'm less afraid about my own judgment and more afraid about how others see me, which is something I wish I could get rid of, but it stays and stays and stays with me. So I would say that when I'm not being completely honest, it's because of what they might think about me.
And isn't that why any of us is acting inauthentically? Like, really? I mean, what other reason could there be
Right.
other than we're worried about what other people think? Um, I was part of my husband and I did a workshop called the Landmark Forum, and some of our viewers might have gone through this process, but it's a very exhausting self-help program. It's been called cultish. We got a lot out of the experience, but one of the things that you have to do is make a pledge when you're going to not imbibe in any way. So no alcohol, no drugs of any kind, not aspirin, not cold medicine, nothing. No. So you make that pledge to do this, and then you kind of sign a waiver. And um, I was shocked because the idea being anything that's going to upset your brain chemistry is going to ultimately be against this the idea of this form. And the idea of the form actually is that you're going to be living completely authentically when you're out of there. So one of the exercises we had to do was call people who we had not resolved issues with and resolve those issues or forgive or whatever we had. So during every break, you had to call people, almost like an AA program of this resolution, which was grueling and exhausting. But the next day, of course, we came home and I'm sure I had some wine or something, and I was probably taking, I don't know, Sudafed or something. But I was shocked at people standing up that had felt guilty that they had imbibed in any way. And so, like, kind of at the next beginning of the next day, people started standing up and saying, "Oh, well, I have to confess that I had alcohol last night." And it was so weird and creepy, but it also meant, well, right, if you're not following the rules of the program, why are you doing the program? But I too was, dishonest in how we carried out some of their requirements. But the idea that you would live authentically was really powerful. And by the time we were done, uh, someone asked me to help them move on like the day that we had just finished. And I mean, it's an exhilarating finish, even though you know what's happening to you, even though I felt very conscious of kind of the kind of heavy-handed, kind of manipulative thing that they were doing. I still felt authentic. But someone asked me if I would help them move. And I instantly said, I hate helping people move. And I was like, I don't think so. I got something going on, something like this. And the minute I hung up the phone, and they were like, okay. And this is somebody who had helped me countless times in countless ways. And I couldn't believe how instantly I went to this. And it was like a stabbing in my heart, even doing it. I had to call her back and say, oh my God, I don't know why I just did that. Like, that was just a gut knee jerk reaction. Of course, I will help you move. But even overriding that thing or either protecting ourselves and being selfish and not wanting to help move somebody, or being afraid of letting people know that you did this and this because they're going to judge you. Those are why we choose to kind of put those masks on or act in a way that doesn't feel like it's who we are at our core, part of our core values.
So when you first said that you weren't going to help, was that you speaking authentically? And then the second time you felt badly for her that you had done that, so then you decided to help her?
Interesting. So if I would have said to her, no, I don't want to help you because I really hate moving,
Yeah.
that would have been enough. That would have been what the authentic self would have been. But I did what I always do, which we all do, making up some sort of white lie, like, oh, I'm busy, or oh, I have this reception or something. So I feel like that was a moment where you realize you can't have it both ways. If you're going to say no, have the guts to say why you're not, and then it's an honest. Then it's an honest exchange, and then whatever happens from that happens from that.
Or
Um,
or you could be honest and say, "No, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me." And you don't have to expand on the why. It's not their business why but you can say it in a most loving way. I'm sorry, I can't, that doesn't work for me. Maybe you could say, but I'd love to see you, or what, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right. You're right about that. I think for me, it was the lesson was don't stop hiding. Like if and do and there are some things you have to do in life. Again, this person was like throughout our entire time together, she just was so helpful and would bend over
Like
backwards for
I
me.
know who this is actually. I feel
Yeah,
like,
and so I felt horrible, and I also felt very cleansed when I did realize what I had done, and I called and I was honest. Then I had to like not only say that I lied during the move, but I will help you move, and I'm sorry. So that was a really powerful, kind of realization. That kind of window that comes out of a big intensive experience like that, kind of it's open for a while, and then it kind of creeps shut. So you do have to kind of keep on that checking in with this
yeah.
authenticity bit, but
So where do you think it comes from that, and when does it happen, where we go from being children who are completely authentic? I'm making a poop. I remember my son, he would sit in a corner, he'd go, I'm
right.
going poop or whatever. Like, and we sort of teach them like, shh, you don't have to tell everybody that or whatever. That was because he was still in diapers at 3. Where do you think that comes from?
I think, well, I mean, I've listened to enough of Brene Brown, for instance. There's she does all of her work on shame, and so there's some way that we've incorporated, you know, shame about parts of ourselves that are real or natural or whatever. And so maybe if it starts with, first of all, denying parts of our body, like saying, oh, that's we're authentic when your kid's proud that he, pooped, and I'm sure just as proud when he was potty trained and was able to kind of do it the way it's supposed to be done. But yeah, I somehow we get the message from those people around us that who we are at our rawest is not acceptable. We have to shape ourselves into some societal expectation. I mean, I'm gay, so there, we learn very early on whether it's, and it's not a sexuality thing when you're 4, it's just you're different and you learn to hide it. And then you learn that people around you are willing to pay into this untruth that you're sharing. So it's not only that we're doing it, but others are willing to buy into those ways that we are being inauthentic. And then all of a sudden act indignant when we say that we weren't, when you come clean with somebody and say I wasn't truthful. And then everybody gets upset. I'm like, well, we were all just doing the best that we can.
Right, right. Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, what you just said, like, it hurts my heart almost because it's like what you had to do was to pretend to be someone else, kind of, so people wouldn't sniff it out, you know? Or you had to sort of try and be more like everybody else, which, what does that even mean, right?
Right. And what becomes pathetic is that when everybody knows in their heart, like something is true. And so we're all just playing along with what
A
this kind of
game.
gaslighting is. Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And that's the part that makes me annoyed the most. But
Yeah.
how about you? Like where in your family or, where did you start feeling this for yourself that you had to put on?
Yeah. So we only have like 5 minutes left. So I'm just going to talk really quick because I wanted to, I have some points that I want to say, but yeah, certainly I have been accused before of painting a sunny, bright picture about everything in my life. And a friend pointed that out to me probably in my late 20s. And at first I was offended, but then I started to take a look and see that maybe this was true. And I remember growing up, if we were ever like, as a family bickering outside or something, my father would be like, shh, shh, the neighbors will hear, shh. It's like you have to give this, you learn at a very young age what a perfect family looks like and be that perfect family. But now, and probably for the last, 17 years, I really try as much as I can to be authentic, which is one of the reasons I stopped coloring my hair. I mean, truly, like this is who I am and I want to be. I stopped painting my nails. Like I just started listening to what I needed and then tried to present who I am that way to the world. But I just feel so strongly that when I'm authentic, fully authentic, it gives an invitation to the person I'm with to share something. And so you see on social media and things like that, where everyone's talking about how great and wonderful things are. And for people that aren't having an easy time of it, they feel very upset with themselves when they see that. I know a lot of people who have gotten off social media for this very reason. A, they see where they're not included, and B, they see that, wow, look how good this person looks. I don't look like that, or look what vacation they're on. I can't go on that. So it's almost like we live in this world where we're trying to paint a picture that isn't really true. I'll post pictures of happy trips, but man, I'd be happy to share with anyone who wants to know some hardships that I'm going through, because I'm always going through hardships. And if we really, really want to for me, it's always about connecting with each other and understanding that we're all one. And the only way that we can get there is when we see that all of us are beautifully imperfect, and to share our imperfections. So then someone else can say, yeah, I had a really tough week. This happened, this happened, this, and then someone else can say, yeah, that happened to me too. And you heal. And then you heal, right? I guess that's what I wanted to share. How about you? How do you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I think with the idea of never be rating ourselves for realizing that we've put those masks on. So they come,
Yeah.
obviously, we just talked about, they are programmed into us. And so I think the ultimate thing that we can hope is to be good examples. So you're right. You want to be the person that you want, that is most you, and encourage others to do the same. But also, more than ever, just stopping for that moment and asking yourself what's going on in the moment. Like, if you're wearing a mask, you don't have to berate yourself for wearing it, but you can certainly say, okay, I'm wearing this for a reason, or I know that this has a reason and I can work on that later. But just that awareness moment is always where we can choose to be curious about why we are the way we are. So, and I think that's where the real authenticity exists. It's where you can go, oh yeah, this is what I put on today. It
Right.
doesn't make me somebody else. It's just something that I put on. Even if they think that it's somebody else, you know that it's not. So it is that point where you can go, okay, it's just an outfit. I can choose to not wear this outfit again, like you choose to not wear the hair dye or nails. It's a choice, and it's okay to choose for whatever reason, but just bring the power into ourselves.
Yeah, that's a beautiful summation. There are days when we put that mask on and we don't really want to be fully authentic, perhaps, to what's going on in our lives, and to not beat ourselves up for it later, when we're by ourselves, and to be okay with that, and that is fine. And in the same time, always being mindful of where we are now, and if we are being authentic, it does have stuff to do with everyone else, but it's mostly a gift that we give ourselves. Because when we do, I would challenge you in your therapy session to allow yourself to get really raw and allow yourself to get broken open, because that is where true healing comes from. And a friend of ours once said, I hate to tell you, but when things are easy, you don't really learn much. You mostly learn when you ride that difficult roller coaster. So ride the ride, everyone. And
And
thank
find someone to do the ride with, because I'll tell you, it's just so much more fun, and it feels much more authentic when you've got somebody that you are most comfortable with. So I thank you, my friend, for being
oh,
one of those people for me so much.
thank you. Okay, well, so hopefully you guys got something from that. Please leave us comments, 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 comments. We want to hear, how are you authentic? What kind of mask do you put on that others, so people won't see? Let us know, like and subscribe, please.
Yes, and the Zoom filter's going back up next week, so I admit that. I admit it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.